controversial subjects with the facts can be tense, but we are A$AP Science here to make things make sense.
So we are now going to be chit-chatting about the science of failure, or failure in general.
The fear of failure,
The fear of failure with the Kendra Hill, who is also our manager. She manages
and
our whole
momager.
life. So that's why we have her on, and she's going to talk
I have
to us.
constant fear of failure, and this is really just a therapy session.
I literally wrote my notes like, this is for Mitch, and this is for Mitch.
Wait, yeah, it's like, I love this podcast.
Okay,
I
so-
just get to work through my problems.
Yeah, I'm like, I will be the liaison. But wait, so Mitch, do you self-identify as someone who has a fear of failure?
I think so. I think it is like not, I don't always intellectualize it that way, but if I think of what it means to be a perfectionist and to have shame around, like obviously most perfectionists, it's really just like carrying shame around the fear of failing, I think, or like it not being perfect. And it's not actually a good thing. Like people sometimes like to be, I'm a perfectionist, but I think I've learned over the years that it's like not a great thing, and it is to do with the fear of failure, I think.
What about you, Kendra?
Absolutely. I think that like perfectionism, there's lots of things, right? I think perfectionism comes from childhood trauma. Let's start there.
Okay,
shit.
drag my family.
Literally
Shit. Well,
dragging your mom. No, but seriously. Like,
Literally drag your mom.
drag your mom. I think that it does. It comes from like having like either parents who are unsupportive or like hypercritical of you. Very critical of what you do, and like you always feeling the need to like perform and like impress them and make them proud. It could be because they look at you as like the star kid. Like maybe they have other kids who ain't shit, you know, and like you're the star kid or whatever the case may be. But like you feel the pressure to perform, and then it's like the more you perform and the more you achieve, the more you become afraid of failing and falling.
Yeah, like the stakes become higher because you're like, I can't come below this now or whatever.
So I just wasn't the star child. Okay.
But,
I'm kidding.
what I'm interested in is because I've maybe I've heard it said this other way as well, but I think a lot of gay men are also high achievers. Maybe not just gay men, but also perfectionists, because they're like fighting against that approval of society as well. And it's like, I can definitely see both my family stuff, but also being like the gay kid that's like, okay, if I can't prove that I'm good at all these things, then what, you know what I mean? I want to show these people that I'm good enough, or that I can be the smartest, or that I can be the best. Like,
that is there's the book. There's this famous like gay book called The Velvet Rage that like every 25-year-old, like it's very white. I would say every 25-year-old white gay is like, well, you read The Velvet Rage, changed my life. I'm in tier 2.
Screaming.
But it kind of talks about that. It's like, it's literally like, it can be, I think, a form of perfectionism, high achieving to find acceptance in society, but it can also lead down the world of like partying and like drugs as like another way of like dealing with like the same type of childhood shame and trauma of like not being allowed to like be yourself and like pretending you want to like have sex with Christina Aguilera. Although actually the Dirty video, like we obviously all wanted to have sex with Christina Aguilera. Like,
I didn't. I was like, I knew I was gay by that age.
Wait, you didn't want to have sex with Christina Aguilera in the Dirty video?
No, I didn't ever want to have sex
You wanted to have
with
sex
any
with
girls.
Redman, and then you wanted to have sex with Redman and the Christina Aguilera Dirty video?
I don't know.
Kendra, your eyes. I'm getting your manager eyes. Like, what are you saying to me?
Yeah, I'm definitely giving you.
Wait, but Kendra, no, I'm putting the frickin' mirror on you. Are you afraid of failure? Because you're so successful, and when you're
The
coming.
mirror?
Yeah. She's holding up a mirror to her literal face. You're dragging Mitch. But what about you? Because you are so successful, so you must be afraid of failing.
I'm not afraid to fail anymore. It took me a long time. I think like the fear of failure is called like atychiphobia or something like that. And like my therapist when I was 18 tried to tell me like, you have atychiphobia. I was like, a tiki taco truck. Like, sis, what is that? You know, like I don't even know what that means. She's like, yeah, you're just afraid to fail. And I think for me, it did come from wanting to be perfect, having like a really jacked up life, and like wanting to like be perfect and show everybody I was worth something, because I went through so many things in my life that made me feel like I was not worthy. But like now, today, no, I'm that girl. And anything I decide I'm going to do, like I'm going to do. I feel like fear of failure can sometimes be rooted in rejection. And I last night I was teaching a class and we kind of got around to that. There's like fear of failure is kind of attached to like rejection and like people not wanting to receive you. And I think that just over time, like from 18 to now, I'm 33 now, like I've worked through that. Like, I don't care if people reject me. I don't need your approval. I don't do things for your approval. If I make you happy or what I do pleases you, then kudos to me. But if it doesn't, like, and I'm living in my truth, then I don't care.
Oh, that's so fucking
Okay,
sad.
so what this is going to turn into is how the hell do you go from A to B?
Wait. Okay, I want to bring in some science right now because I'm like, it's actually like weirdly interesting to like say before we get into this, which I think is like, I so want to know exactly how you did that, but I'm like, this to me could maybe help you.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, so it's literally a like EEG fMRI study of the brain under the circumstances of failing and succeeding. And like in the past, they thought like the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which is like a way to like summarize it, which like any neuroscientist would be like, that isn't fair, because there's obviously so many neurons in your brain. It's all very complicated. Hello, it's thine brain. But like the prefrontal cortex, it assesses risk. It kind of like grows last. Like when you're like sometimes like they blame kids for being risky because they don't have a fully evolved prefrontal cortex. But they thought it was all happening in this like small part of the brain. But now this new study found actually by putting people in situations where they would have to do tasks and they would get check marks or they would get like red X's, and they found that there's very distinct things happening in your brain. And in fact, more parts of your brain are lighting up when you're failing. So like they don't go this far, but I thought it was interesting. Like there's something there, like the visceral reaction of failing is huge. It's a big feeling, and like it literally takes up more of your brain. Whereas success is like, it's there, but and it's different parts, but there's not as much going on. But what they found out is it's like it's a whole brain reaction to both. It's a lot more complicated than they always thought. But I thought it was interesting to think of failure as an actual like cognitive thing that's happening in your brain that can really take you over. And there's a lot of cortisol release, which is the hormone that causes stress. Like there's a lot of reasons why a fear response can occur. Like literally,
and
like
maybe is kind of like you're actually experiencing something physically inside of you.
And sometimes for me, that's why I love science so much, is like understanding that can sometimes make things less scary, because you're like, oh wow, okay, I'm going through this like experience, like it's natural, it's normal. But it was one thing that was really interesting was that the more that people failed in the tasks, which I think maybe is what you're going to get to, the better they ended up at the task. Like it was like over time they would fail less. It like feels obvious, therapy. But it was also just like another part of the study that felt like, okay, of course, like you can't just like be successful off the gate at everything. That's like literally impossible. You're going to suffer through this failure, but you're always going to end up like better. But like it's just a complex thing, neurochemical thing, which I think is interesting. Like it's an interest. I don't know. I fucking love failure.
I'm screaming. It's interesting, but like even like when you said, maybe I'm not all the way there. Wow. Cause when you said,
maybe you're not what?
So maybe I'm not all the way there. Cause when you said red X's, I was like, no, like internally, I'm like, oh, red X's.
You're like, actually, this test is wrong. I don't know. You did something like
I disagree.
This test is wrong.
Science is a lie. Where's let me go find the right wingers over here. Anyway, but no, really, like no, I think that I agree. I made a lot of mistakes, and maybe not all mistakes, like career mistakes. But life mistakes, like I fell into, the life of crime because, I'm a thug. And I just did a lot of things that were wrong or bad, or like things that I desired that just did not manifest. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, why? Why didn't this manifest? And looking back, like those things definitely helped me like to do better. I think just in my career, really. I think that like once I was able to like establish the root of why was I so afraid to fail, and then change my perspective. It's like, okay, these things really are coming to make me stronger. These things really are making me better. They're making me wiser. They're making me smarter. Now I have more experience. Now I know more. I understand more about life. So now I can make better decisions. And I kind of just look at, like for me, I look at failure as a tool. You have to fail. you have to make mistakes. I think that we're also taught, like, as a society, like, it's not safe. Like, you go to a job, right? And you mess up, and then, like, you get written up. You go to a job, and you mess up twice. Now you got 2 strikes. And now you're getting ready to get fired, you know? And, like, so we're taught that, like, mistakes can't be made. We teach kids to color inside the lines from birth. We teach kids how to properly hold their spoon. And we put spoons in right hands when a kid could be left-handed. And we tell them, no, that's not right. Hold it like this. You know, like, we're constantly, as a society, I think, like, checking children from the beginning. Like, don't do it this way.
Putting those X's there.
We're putting those X's there. And so it's like, does the kid then lean into the X's and say, okay, I get it. I understand. I won't do that. And now I can make smarter decisions. Or does the kid feel rejected?
Oh, wow. I see. That's the rejection thing. Yeah. And have that visceral biological response take over and then want to avoid that, like, really deeply. So, okay, Mitch, now we're going to now we look at Mitch.
Therapy time.
So, yeah, like, when did you first maybe start?
Well, okay, I feel a sort of dichotomy. So,
yeah.
I think overall, I do put myself in lots of situations to push myself and try new things. Obviously, like, we created ASAP Science. I love traveling. I love taking risks to a degree. So I don't feel like I'm so averse to failure or risk.
You went on Big Brother and had someone film your whole, like, you take insane risks.
But there's a sort of, it is true though that, like, failure hits me really hard. And then maybe it's the thing, when I contextualize something in the right way, it's like, there's no way to fail, now I'm not scared, right? And so, I don't know, like, I have that both sides of me. I feel like now in my life as I'm getting older, it's not like I'm more afraid, but I'm more entrenched in a weird vision of, like, having a hard time flipping over from, okay, how do I say this? Like, I listen to tons of, like, self-help books and podcasts and love it, and I intellectually understand it, but it's like my body hasn't caught up, is what I feel sometimes, where it's like the fear of the body response.
Let's get into it. And y'all can use this or not use this, but let's use this as a therapy session. The conversation we were having yesterday about your show. Well, what if people don't see it? Why does it matter? Does and does that mean that you have failed if no one watches something that you did? If no one listens to this podcast, does that mean that we failed? Or did we have a great conversation? Y'all learned some things about me. I learned things about science and things about you, and we move on.
That's actually, okay, this is so interesting because, like, ASAP Science, I think, works because, like, what you have fundamentally taught me is how to reach a mass audience, reach a bunch of people. Like, we've actually had this tension in our life even prior to working together and making ASAP Science. Like, I always loved, like, the most artistic sort of indie, like, avant-garde thing that, like, no one saw, and I'd be like, that changed my life. And then Mitch would be like, yeah, that was good, but, like, you're actually more interested in, like, my examples, like Inception or like you have, like, or Lord of the Rings. No, I'm serious because I'm like, there's actually no, I'm like, those are incredible masterpieces of, like, there's actually, like, to make something that a bunch of people love is an art form in and of itself, and it's actually, like, you made me realize that there's something so valuable there. But I'm like, it's so interesting because I never thought about how that might relate to the fear about the show not being quote unquote seen by people. Because it's like, I actually sometimes fundamentally think the best things are the things that not many people see, because I'm like, a wide audience of people means you've probably watered something down. But like, the only reason ASAP Science has ever worked is because, like, I feel like I have, like, Kendra knows, like, I do, like, crazy shit. Like, I'm more like, I don't know. I don't care as much about what people think, and there's a lot of value in that in some ways, but I think that no one would be watching the videos that I make about, like, poppers and anal gay sex and, like, these things. And you're like, no, actually, how do we take the idea that you're passionate about and make it be seen by more people? So it's like, I've always appreciated that skill, but that it's sort of maybe linked to this issue of, like, if people aren't seeing it, is it bad? Because, like, do you know what I mean? Like, you've always, like...
For me, I guess it's kind of like, what is the metric of success? And I've definitely primed my brain to think of success as... Like, I've always, since a young age, been like, I want to have some impact. Maybe this is a fear of death thing of being like, what is the point of me being here if I don't have some kind of greater impact outside of myself that it's, you know, you leave a legacy on the world, and a lot of people.
But there's
hope
a
to have
number
that.
attached to it?
Well, not specifically, but ever since we especially work in this like online world, obviously it's become easily gripped with that. When I was younger, it wasn't about that, but it was still about, you know, I want to make something not just for myself. I want to do it to impact other people. And I think I've maybe become entrenched in that view of that being the only form of success. Definitely in more recent years, I've like tried to tell myself, okay, like, you know, enjoy the journey. Like that is also for you. That is like the thing that you can enjoy regardless of what happens. But that has not fully translated for sure.
I also think it's about like, it goes back to that thing about like changing your perception and your perspective on your goals, right? Are your goals black and white? Or are there 50 shades of gray? You know, we love a good 50. We love Christian Grey. I'm just saying, like, is it black and white or is it 50 shades of gray? Is it win or lose, or is it that you showed up? Like, what is the, like you said, like Greg said, like, what's the metric? Is it just being happy? Is it learning something new? In the instance of what we're talking about from yesterday about the show, like, it's about learning something new. Like, it's about having a new experience and learning new things and being in new environments and after being in the pandemic, being around people, you know what I'm saying? Like, living your best summer life. Like, there's a lot of things. Like, it doesn't have to be black and white.
That is another thing that we talk about a lot. Like, I have a harder time living in shades of gray. Like, for me, a lot of my decisions are black and white, and there's this side of me that would love nothing more than to just be like so creative and artistic and like really live in that, and maybe like leave this world of like digital connectedness and just like live, you know, somewhere that's like not overly connected, and, you know, like go away and just explore the world and be on my own. And it's like either that or all the way connected.
Yeah, no,
like,
it's so funny. It's like, yeah, like you really are, you're like, it's intense sometimes.
Yeah, and I want both, but for some reason I tell myself they cannot coexist, or I have a hard time living.
You said recently that you thought you
them.
saw it in your dad. Like, there's like, it must be something about the way that our parents, like, you're like, you
Well,
realize,
obviously,
like,
for
you were
sure.
raised by your parents.
but that's what I mean. Like, so do you think though that you went from something that you were like raised a certain way to like you, like, it is like, how did you shift your
So,
brain? 'Cause
like,
I also think,
yeah, so here's like the Cliff Note version, right? I grew up really poor. I grew up without a father. My mom didn't really raise me. She got married and left and like lived her best life. So I was like spending a lot of time with other people, like, who have, you know, obviously impacted and shaped my life. But part of that was like, I was definitely dealing with rejection. And so I wanted to be successful because I wanted people, like I said, to recognize me. But then it was like, I was so good at everything. Like, I have the Mitch problem. It's like, oh, I decided I'm gonna dance, I'm a dancer. I decided I'm gonna sing, I'm a singer. Now I'm playing the piano, I'm a pianist. Like, and a pianist, not a penis. You know, I gotta let your audience know, because, you know, I don't have a penis. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but not for me. So, you know, it's like anything I decided I was gonna do, I would do. When I became an adult, like literally at 18, went away to college, college was no longer about pleasing these people. So for me, I kind of got weird, because I was like, what am I supposed to, why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Like, if I'm not living for the applause of my people, what am I doing? And then I started realizing that, like, I was like stagnating myself, because like I would like barely show up. I wouldn't be fully like there. And I'm like, the only person I'm cheating is me, by not allowing life to be whatever it needs to be, by not living for myself and not worrying about what other people think, and not worrying about possibly failing, and not worry about, like, all of those things are parameters that other people have set up for me. When I start living for myself, I can live in gray. And that's okay. And I actually started finding that, like, I was just more fulfilled, and by being more fulfilled, I was able to actually achieve more because I was happy.
yeah, because I'll say, like, I don't think I'm like devoid of this. Like, I think like I also take like big risks. Like I do create, like I feel like we both do kind of like really intense things. And I find when I do things, I want to be like, I do have this like drive to like be the best at it. Like I definitely have that in me.
Yeah, it's like I'll start working out and then he's like, oh, he's down in the basement working out. I'm like, Jesus, like
I'm screaming.
No, like I'm just.
I cannot have one day more of workout than Greg. He has to always have one more than me.
I want to snatch summer bod. So like I'm just like, oh, there was something you were saying that was making me think about like, it's like I do want to please other people, and I think the only way that I've been able, honestly, the only way I've been able to really cope with that, because I think it does come from being gay. Like I like my parents were very much like actually like have like an opposite thing I think of a perfectionist thing, where I was like, look, I got an 80, and they were like, cool. Like they wouldn't care whether I got like, it felt at least like they were very much like indifferent about like the success.
Maybe they would have cared if you were like failing.
Exactly. Like I never gave them that option, and neither did my sister. But it felt like it was almost like, could you maybe praise me a little bit more? You know. But I honestly think science has helped me, because I really think like about like the present, and like I don't know that much about what happens after all of this, and like our sentience is like important to me. So I think that's why sometimes I'm like, yes, I want to be the best at these things, but I have to enjoy the process, and I have to enjoy every aspect of life, which sounds like it could be stressful, but it's actually like kind of not, because I do think life is kind of like amazing. Like when you look at it, like I have a hard time looking at the bad things in life. I honestly think science has kind of helped me, because it's like also zooming out in a failure moment, like being like, I'm just one person on this earth in this universe. This doesn't matter. Like that's also helped me cope, because I think fundamentally I have something similar to you. Like I want to be the best at the thing I'm doing, and I don't feel good if I'm like failing or whatever.
I relate to that,
and I set my.
I think that like the way you use science to like understand that, I use faith to understand that. Like seeing something way bigger than myself, understanding the big picture, and understanding that like for me, failure was like I said, it stagnated me. Like I would just procrastinate and like not take the step, because it's better to not take the step. To me, then it was like better to not take the step than to do it and mess up, or to do it and to fail. And so then like when I like stepped back and like in my faith opened my eyes up to the big picture of like me not stepping out could cause a bad reaction to something else in my life or someone else's life, then it was like, okay, you kind of got to learn to go with the flow on some things. Like everything can't be in your control. I also think, no shade to Mitch, that people who deal with this like have control issues. And feel the need to like not just control like their own path, but everyone around them and like what's happening. And it's like, even if it's not like, it's never, I don't think it's malicious. It's just like, you always want to have a grasp on all the things. And it's like, your hands are only so big.
It's tied to like anxieties and obviously fear of failure. I don't know which comes first. Is it like anxiety? Is it stress? Is it fear of failure? Right? It's like all these things that you're like, you don't necessarily know why, but for a lot of people who suffer from anxiety, it is like to control the things in your life makes you feel more comfortable, because you are avoiding something, right? Like, so to have things a certain way makes you feel like, okay, it's not that I want to control anyone. And I hope I'm not like overly controlling, like we in this little working session.
only Greg can answer that one.
Definitely, I have like. No, yeah, and in that way, I'm also black or white. It's in or out. It's like, if I'm going to be involved in this, and I've said this and I've tried to improve on this myself, but it used to be like, if you want my notes or you want me to engage in this video, I'm going to be all in. Because like for me, it feels like now it's partially my project and I'm going to have all these different anxieties about other things. So you need to know once I step in, like it's going to be all over the place. And it just goes back to that kind of black or white thing. I have a hard time being like, you know what, I can give you just some notes and then walk away and let you do your video. I'm kind of just like going all over the place here, but I'm just like, what is it?
No, but I feel like Kendra's like, you found the root cause. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, Mitch, like,
but you know what?
Literally.
But I'm thinking about it and I'm like, F that. Greg does too. I'm sitting here really thinking like, this is like real manager tea.
Take him down.
Yes. Here we go.
This is the thing.
I'm gonna tell you.
Okay, yeah,
I'm gonna tell you when Greg does it, because like it's coming to me now. Like I'm getting all my manager vibes. Like we'll sit in meetings and I'll literally go, okay, I'm going to tell Zach that, we're down to do it, but we need $10,000 more to do it, and it needs to be done on this day. Here goes Greg. Yeah. So Kendra, what you need to do is you need to call Zach and let Zach know that we're totally down to do it, but for $10,000 more. And at this time, I'm like, did you just straight white man splain me? I literally just said that, but that's Greg reprocessing things and grabbing it I said to do this. And it's you don't have to. We agree.
No, it's weirdly it's not that I need to do it. It's I actually it is a form of control where I'm it's me saying it to you means that you're gonna do it more or something.
You said it to your showrunner today. Okay, so what you need to do, I said, oh, she know what she need to do.
No, yeah, I definitely this is also a funny thing that me and Mitch always talk about. Is sometimes the more extreme version of the other person. There's other things that not to do with failure though that that Mitch it's in your personality, but it gets overlooked because it's so a thing I struggle with that it's sometimes hard for you to find the space to maybe work on the thing yourself because we're always oh, there's Greg's issue, and it's but it's I do think I have similar fear of failure and perfectionism things, but then sometimes because it's something that plagues you maybe more deeply, it's hard for me to notice and work on it because it's and I bet people in partnerships feel this all the time. You start to fall into your sort of roles.
You're this way, I'm this way.
Yeah, and then you forget then I go hang out with my laissez-faire friends and I'm holy shit, I am controlling the situation. None of my friends would ever think I'm anything but the most overachieving psycho. You know what I mean? As I'm and then you're holy shit, yeah, it's just because I'm around Mitch and we focus on this aspect of him, so it's I definitely have my fucking shit and I yell at Kendra to do shit that she's
literally I'm just you are the straightest white man, non-straight white man I know. I'm just if you tell me one more time, if you tell me one more time what I just said, literally I can come up with literally Greg's a colonizer. I can come up with an idea, and I take this personally as a woman of color. It's I can come up with the idea.
Literally the manager is canceling.
I'm I'm canceling ASAP now. It's literally I could be we really need to use a lip cream, and then Greg is you know what we should do? We should use a lip cream. But I'm Greg. Okay, anyway, I have a question for y'all. Spicy. Do you believe that anything that isn't perfect is a failure?
Intellectually, I do not believe that. So, I definitely can appreciate things that are not perfect, and in fact can understand that imperfection is what makes people interesting, and that if everyone's perfect, no one's interesting, right? And so there's something there that doesn't compute between brain and body for me, where it's for myself. When you give advice to people and generically and you don't take it yourself, it's I know the advice is right and I know whatever, but then it's but for me, I'm not gonna do that.
I almost feel I do think that if something isn't perfect, it's a failure. That's a really good question. I just am having this moment where I'm I don't use the word perfect very I don't really think anything is perfect, but then the
so
moment
everything's a failure.
Well, no, I'm just it's so interesting. I'm just oh yeah, I think I also don't like binaries, and so I think perfect and failure they're binary sounding concepts. I don't think that I think I rarely use either of them, but there's something that there where it's if for something to be perfect is very rare for me, and it's a thrill and it's an amazing thing to see. And everything else is sometimes maybe not perfect, and I'm aware of that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I don't know. That's just a really good question.
Do you feel that way?
No, and even in myself, no, because none of us have perfect bodies. Greg is giving us fake dad bod. You know what I'm saying? I'm giving you fat girl friendly Lizzo. I'm giving you light skinned Lizzo. You know what I'm saying? Well, not really, because sis, but a little tighter. But I'm giving that, and to me, That doesn't mean that like my body is a failure or that my body is ugly or that your body's ugly. It's not perfect. It just is. And I think that like, I used to feel like how Mitch felt. Like, I'll tell other people like, no, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay. But I'm telling myself, no, bitch, you better get it together. Like, it has to be perfect. But I think, like I said, I mean, part of that healing process for me about like rejection really helped me deal with that. It's like, I was being rejected for stuff that was not even like measurable, you know? It's like, you're not being rejected because you got D's in school. You're being rejected because you came from the wrong side of town. You know, it's like, that's not really measurable. Like, we're not measuring data here. Give me a number. Give me something logical that tells me that this is bad. But then even now it's like, I've accepted, I guess my fully evolved grown self is like, but even those numbers, who cares? I've gotten past that. So it goes back into this conversation about like views and numbers, and it's like, I don't even care about that. So I don't feel that anything that isn't, you know, perfect is a failure. I feel like maybe it's an opportunity if you want to be perfected. So like, it's like us, like sitting down and looking at views on videos. So you have a video that pops off and it gets 5 million views. Then you have a video that slow crawls to 300,000, right? We use it as an opportunity to look at what could we have done? Is there a learning from this? Is there something I should gain from this? And then how can I apply it moving forward versus looking at it like, oh my God, we suck, let's just kill the channel. You know?
Yeah, that is something that I know. I think it came through my teacher's college, because like teaching is all about doing things and teaching the students to reflect. It was always all about reflection.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe helped me there. It's like, I really love reflecting on whatever, like exactly that. Like when a video doesn't do well, there's actually a more exciting intellectual story happening there. Whereas when a video does really well, it's a bit more like dopamine, endorphins. I go smoke my joint, have a drink on the patio. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm sick. But then it's like, when it doesn't, there's like a bit of a thrill there that's deeper. It's like, what was it? And I get excited to reflect.
You panic though too. Don't sit here and try to tell your people that you get excited. He does get excited, but he panics. Like, you panic.
Yeah, no, I panic, but I'm just saying, like, I like get a bit excited about the process of trying to figure out like what went wrong and like how to improve it. And I don't think of it. I don't blame I usually, I'm like, there's like something else. Like, I don't ever think the video's bad. Do you know what I mean? Like, actually, I'm like,
I don't either. Good. Usually, I am more just like, I get more upset if I think we did something really good and it didn't get as much attention or love as I hoped it did. I don't know.
We're back.
No, I mean,
we're back
obviously, obviously it's because I have, and I think a lot of performers, artists have this problem, is like an external loci of acceptance and approval, right? So definitely at some point in my life, I was taught you get validation from outside, and that's like your source of how you test if you're, and then that goes back to being gay, like not to re-say everything we said, but it is like, if you're trying, and we talked about this before between us, like I'm more straight passing as a kid, and so maybe if you're gonna get called gay, it's easier for you to be like, okay, I'm just gay, like whatever, I can't hide this. Whereas because I'm closer to straight passing, at least in the way I was acting, it's like you're constantly measuring yourself based on how other people are perceiving you. And so, and I could get away with it, so I could adapt and change myself in a way, but it is a view of the world where you're just looking at other people to understand how to act. And that has been also like a curse in even my art. Like anytime I want to write music, I can start, but I always go to how other people perceive it. And of course, the irony is that's become a skill in some ways, like for making and sharing videos about science, it's thinking about how do other people see this or think about it, how will they interact with it, and that is a skill, but it also is a curse, I think.
Well, yeah, you have the ability to conceptualize end user experience, which is a very coveted skill in business, right? It's like, whenever I create a new program or create a new offering or something like that, I'm always thinking about how are people going to perceive this in that way. But I'm not thinking about I want them to approve.
Right.
How someone perceives it and how they interact with it and how they receive it versus whether or not they approve it. Those are two different things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, wow, that's true. Interesting.
Do you not feel then like I feel that maybe my identity is melded to the things I do.
Absolutely.
So it's hard for me to separate myself from a thing I've made or care about. And maybe that is the area to practice, is being like, the thing you made is not you. It's just like a thing you made, a representation.
wow.
So if and I also want to say, like, I think everyone does suffer this, right? At least throughout their
to
life.
some
And it
degree,
is
for
like,
sure.
we all know, or we all hear, you know, for every one negative comment, you need 30 positive ones. Like, your eye always goes to the negative. There must be a human evolutionary trait, as you talked about, that is just like protective, to be aware for threats, to be aware for like things that are going bad.
Well, yeah, it's like we talk about it all the time on ASAP Science. It's like, if you underestimate a danger, and it is dangerous,
Put yourself at
you
risk.
Die.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you overestimate a danger, it actually ends up not being dangerous. Maybe there's a bit of embarrassment, you don't die. So it's like we are literally programmed.
It's like better to be
Yes.
over worried
Like-
or overthink, but obviously not. Now it comes
Yeah.
to the extreme of mental health
And
being
anxiety, like you talked a lot about anxiety, as I think that that's an interesting thing that might be related, that I think I know I suffer less than you do from. But the anxiety is fully linked to that. It's actually about the fear of failure.
This kind of
some
links
ways.
to my study that I'm going to bring up. It's a short one, okay? And the first part I want to say is 1/3 of wantrepreneurs. Have you heard of that?
Wantrepreneurs?
People who want to be entrepreneurs but aren't. It's because of fear. So there's like of everyone
Yeah.
who wants to be, 1/3 don't do it because they're too afraid of failure.
Wantrepreneurs. My babies.
But what they found out, especially in people who either own their own business or major in business, is that there's this parasite found in cat poo that is more present in those people. And they believe
Wait.
that parasite affects people's fear response. They've tested it in mice, and
What?
mice who have this parasite are not afraid of cats. So they've actually, like, that same parasite for people who are more likely to take business or have them. Obviously, this is not everyone.
Wait.
Isn't
Okay,
that
wait.
so
No,
weird?
but say it again. Is the parasite increasing your fear or helping you cope with fear?
Minimizing.
It
your fear.
minimizes
So people
the
who
fear.
have, if you,
Oh.
Well, call me
have the
Parasite
parasite.
Patty, because, I mean,
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
out
I'm
here.
like, I guess
like maybe you got it.
And
in
I'm like,
the-
I'm
in the
dirty as
transition.
fuck. Maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I ate the right soil when I was a kid. So like, are you serious? What
I mean,
parasite is that? Bottle that
I
shit.
didn't write the
Entrepreneurs
name
and sell
down. I
it.
could find the name. I didn't write it down.
Mitch, that's such a left field. So funny. I
We're-
didn't know.
we're- we're
No, I'm
making-
like, I'm just like, that's wild.
We're making parasite pasta tonight, and we're gonna conquer all of our fears. Like what?
But it's no, but that's what. But it is so interesting. Like, it is rooted in physiological responses in your body, and like your anxiety is rooted in physiology and science. Like,
Of course, and that's something I think about a lot. Is, you know, okay. Here's the meta answer. Is like, we are all different, and we need to accept who we are. If I'm supposed to like not be afraid of failure, but it's my natural instinct to be afraid of failure, should that not be okay? Does that make sense?
yeah, no, it does. I think it is
Like,
okay, but
some people will naturally have more anxiety than others,
Yeah.
right? There is a scale. Some will have 0, and some will have the most, and most people will be around the middle. And so the question is that just the way life is, or do you try and bring people closer to the middle? Or
I'm gonna tell you why. What if your fear of failure is keeping you from curing cancer?
But what if? No, that's true. Fair. But sometimes the fear, like perfectionism, that could lead to many negative things in someone's life, but it could also make them do something incredible.
I have an intense question, which is, are you happy?
That's it.
Oh yeah, no, fair. Like that.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Is like, I think that is more the question.
Well, so this and Brene Brown talks about this a lot, and I've heard her, I think, with Tim Ferriss once talk, because he expressed something that I feel, which is, if I, let go of these fear responses, shame, and am just content, will I still have the desire to do well,
Yeah.
to make art, to like be quote unquote the best? Obviously, like, we don't mean the best, but
I think you. Wow. So like, Kendra, you said something else, which was like, you think that you're maybe more successful now because you got over that thing. So my example of something like that is like, I noticed like with stand-up comedy, it's like I do so well when I'm in an environment where I'm not afraid of failure, and I just like, it's only when it's like, it's crazy how I just think counter, like, it's like sounds like corny and it's very like Oprah vibes, but I'm like, I'm not kidding. I think once you unlock the thing, you probably are like it's like you're gonna be so successful.
It's true.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
No,
I don't
that probably is.
know. I think like that, but you don't think that. Maybe that's the issue. You don't think that.
My mentees jokingly call me Oprance, like Oprah and Beyonce. So that means I had to have internally overcome something, right? Because I have no fear. Like right now, like I haven't even talked to y'all about this like offline, but here we are. Like I'm getting ready to open like another division in my business, doing something that's I've done, but like it feels a little left field, but I've been knowing this was the thing. And like my life's journey this year has proven like, yes, sis, this is the thing, right? I'm not afraid to do it. I just need to make a plan. And so that could also be a thing too, right? It's like Mitch, being a person who deals with this a little bit more than the rest of us, do you make a plan and execute that plan? Or do you not make a plan at all? Or do you make a plan, but you're too scared to take the step to complete the plan?
I mean, it's a mix. Like the things that I've done well in, it's obviously the ones that I get far enough along. But there are definitely times when, I spend more time planning than actually doing, because it's almost like a defense mechanism to minimize the risk. You plan and figure out, and I learn every single program and spend all this time like teaching myself things. But then it's like it never goes into the realm of actually like stepping into the space that I wanted to be in the first place. So it varies based on projects or aspirations, but yeah, I don't know.
But okay, I just still think like
no, you're
like
probably right.
Brene
Brown says the same thing. She's like, the people who are actually the best at what they do have released themselves from the fear.
And it goes back to that sort of dichotomy thing of like being like, I'm either gonna like move to India and like teach yoga or like and not have a phone, or like I can't, or I'm here and I'm on my phone and I'm plagued, or like it's like the binaries. It's like you think like either I'm gonna, it's like if I give up this anxiety and this perfectionism, I'm all of a sudden gonna hop over to the other binary side where I do nothing. Right? It's like, no, it's not that. It's just that you're going to maybe relieve yourself of this thing, and you're going to end up probably, as Brene Brown says, not me, I'm Greg Brown, probably end up really successful, you know what I mean, in that middle ground.
Is there also the idea of doing it afraid?
Okay.
I feel like I've lived most of my life doing things afraid.
Oh.
Like being afraid.
Yeah, I think that's it.
But doing it,
like, is actually like better, to be used to. Honestly, like one of my like therapy things that I was supposed to do but never did was I was supposed to tell bad jokes in front of people, because I had this, I mean, I had talked about how Greg's like really funny and I'm like introverted and quiet, and so I feel like insecure about my ability to be funny. And then through therapy it was like, well, what's actually the risk, right? And this kind of goes back to your exposure therapy of when you do something more. I guess my therapist's whole point was, if you're gonna be feeling anxious and embarrassed and tell these bad jokes and nothing bad's gonna happen, like who cares? But I literally could never work up.
Oh my God,
okay, tell us a bad joke.
For a party where, tell that joke.
Tell us a bad joke.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Who's there?
Tree
who?
Treebeard from Lord of the Rings.
I like it. Wait, was that her? I like it.
Well, I mean, it wasn't. I didn't even know what I was going to say, so I don't know.
No, but that's great. But that's great, not knowing what you're going to say. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to think. I'm gonna tell a bad joke too. Okay, let's tell bad jokes. Greg, we know you have lots of them. Okay, let's see.
That was a good joke.
How is it, how or where, Kendra? See, where did crows drink before there were bars?
Cars. They're cars.
Third eye.
That was probably a better joke than the actual joke. They drank at home.
Oh, hey,
What is it? Oh.
See,
What do you
a
mean,
bad
did they have
joke.
a home?
What happened? Nothing.
Your turn, Greg.
Okay, my joke is physical.
Just tell one of your comedy jokes.
Yeah, Greg, me. No, oh my God. Okay, I don't have like a locked and loaded knock knock joke or something.
I made that one up on the spot.
Okay. a non-funny joke. Oh my god, I'm actually panicking.
Who's the perfectionist?
Maybe I'm the one that
Who's the perfectionist now?
Stop yelling at me. You're all yelling at me. I'm like a full meltdown.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know any jokes. I just remember there's like this girl. Okay, so I was swimming. It's a physical joke, so we have to explain to the people over listening.
Yeah, explaining a joke.
So I was
is not funny.
swimming along.
It's already not funny.
And then
I love this.
And then I got my
You succeeded.
And then I got my arm cut off. But it was amazing because I grabbed my arm and I shoved it back on, and it was so awesome. I was like, 2 thumbs up. And then
That's actually funny.
Y'all can't see him, but he has 1 thumb up and 1 thumb down.
like I put my thumb on wrong. 2 thumbs, and I was like, 2 thumbs
That
up.
was actually
was
funny.
funny.
I might use that one.
I know.
Oh,
You
shit.
fail.
Yeah, shit. Well, once there's this long-mouthed bullfrog joke that I love that's like 10 minutes, and I did tell that once, and at the 10-minute mark, everyone was like, I like stopped and
We were
looked
like
and was like,
mad.
like that, and everyone was like, was that the punchline? It was like really bad because it was like 10 minutes long. So maybe that experience.
Okay,
helped me
how
get
did this
it.
make you feel, Mitch? Telling your joke about Treebeard that was not funny.
Well, because this is such a safe environment and we were intentionally doing it, I think there was still the level of fear response, but it wasn't as harsh as it might have been had you guys just been, if you thought I was earnestly telling that joke. You know what I mean?
So do you care a lot about what people think of you in like a party setting?
It's that binary thing again. Like sometimes it's literally no, not at all. Like, but then in a party setting, I just like don't go to parties.
Well, this is the thing. When you were talking about control, I thought it was something very interesting because it's like you like when you were like Greg will know if he's like controlling, and I'm like I think you have your like moments, but in general, I would be like you're not that controlling. But what you do is you avoid situations that are out of your control. So I noticed like I'm like always, now like things are getting better. I'm like I'm wanting to go to the beach, which is like there's a lot of things you have to get on a boat, you have to go like. I had to make a fire to stay warm at night. There's a lot of these things that like are very like you kind of have to deal with the elements. And I noticed that you're like I'm tapping out because it's like you actually have to kind of embrace those moments and understand that things are going to be out of your control. And I sometimes wonder it's like you actually to me aren't very controlling, but I noticed that there's parts of your life that I think you miss out on because you avoid maybe this is just like putting something on you.
Fair.
That
And
might
I
not
need
be
a lot
true or
of
not.
mental prep to do the things that are out of my control so that I can at least contextualize
Yeah.
which parts are going to be out of my control or like that I need to be prepared for the anxiety that might come with them, etc., etc.
So it's like you're like avoiding the party fully rather than going.
Yeah, it's like if I'm at a party, it's because I've decided I can probably handle it. You know?
And you're either like I don't give a shit what anyone thinks here.
Or it's like it's because it's a party where it's mostly the friends that
Or
I
it's like
actually
my close
feel safe
friends.
around, and
Yeah.
I'm not. That's why I don't love big parties because I'm like there are a lot of people here that I don't know, and I feel awkward and uncomfortable, and I'm not.
Oh
that
my
social.
god, Mitch, that's crazy. I really want to have a vaccine party where we have to prove that you're a double vax. I have so many people from Toronto, and Mitch is like
my
literally getting.
nightmare.
And I'm realizing now it's because it's like there's going to be people there that aren't your close friends.
Yeah, I don't think that's that weird though. Like to
That's
also
not
party
weird.
with people you like.
However,
No, it's not weird.
Avoidance is a part of fear.
Yeah, totally.
Avoidance is a part of fear.
I think it's like trying to learn when to understand to move the line, right? Because sometimes it's like, you know what? People have preferences. I don't think it's that big of a deal to be like, I'd rather just party with my closer group of friends. That could still be like 15 people. It's not like the number matters. It's like the intimacy. I'd rather be around people I want to engage with and spend time with.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a line that I have to decide sometimes for myself, like, okay, but what if there's 4 people I don't know? Like, is that too many? What if there's
my God.
10 people I don't know? And it is like, yeah, being able to like put yourself in discomfort. How far will you take that because also remember, anxiety and these kind of things are not in your control, at least in the moment, right? Of course, you can work on them in practice and come up with strategies, which are all forms of control, right? Like most therapy for anxiety is often, if it's not drugs, is managing the anxiety. And so that's why I mean, like sometimes different people are just different, and I
and it's
want to push
chemicals
myself
in your brain. It's
I think it's
neurophysiology,
finding the
yeah.
tools ultimately that
Yeah.
can help you push past.
Question:
Wow.
Do you fear confrontation? Just yes or no?
Yeah, but yeah.
No,
for sure.
just yes or
Me
no.
too.
Okay, yes. Do you fear confrontation?
Yes, I
Okay.
fear confrontation.
Now, here's the question where you get to answer. Is it because you are afraid of losing, or is it because you are afraid of how you are perceived?
Oh my God, I love this. It's because I'm afraid of how I am perceived.
And no, what am I? You know what? Because if I know I'm right, I'm fine with confrontation.
So
like,
you're
maybe
afraid to
it's the fear
lose,
of being wrong.
And so that means you're actually dealing with like perfectionism. And Greg, you are actually dealing with fear of rejection. You're afraid of how people perceive you when you go off. Mitch is only gonna go off if he knows he's right. If he's not sure, he's not gonna go off because he doesn't want to lose. Y'all are wild.
Yeah. Wait, but you only gave us 2 answers and they both led to something. What are you?
But it's one of those two things. You're only afraid of. We're way off from. We're not really way off from failure, but I can talk about.
But what about you? What about you?
I'm not afraid of confrontation. Haven't you seen?
Oh yeah.
I'm your manager.
Yeah, wait, you have to just not
I've
be ready for
confronted
confrontation.
y'all.
Yeah,
I've confronted other people. I confronted.
No, you are
I
not
confronted
afraid.
your
I
old
love fucking
manager.
love.
I confront anybody.
Yeah.
I will confront
Yeah.
anybody. Like and for me, it's not about being right or wrong. It's about bringing the conversation out that no one wants to talk about. If we're tiptoeing around the fact that Greg has ugly feet, I will say.
There they are.
I don't know if they are. I didn't look, so I'm not like dragging you. But okay, if we are talking about the fact that Greg is gassy, I'm not gonna avoid the conversation just because I don't know a whole bunch about flatulence. I'm gonna say, Greg, with your old gassy ass. Like I'm gonna say it. Like I'm not afraid to. I think part of that is cultural too. Like being a black person, like. We're naturally just more like, let's just call this thing out because I don't want to tiptoe. We're not going to be passive aggressive. We're just going to be very direct. So I don't fear
such
confrontation.
A white person thing to be passive aggressive.
It is.
It is also like even culturally a country like we notice
Canadian.
as Canadians we're way more passive and like we've
Passive
been in like a New York
aggressive,
sandwich
though.
shop. Oh yeah, passive aggressive as well. But we've like waited for our meal for like 30 minutes and realized like everyone was just going in front of us grabbing.
Yeah,
and, like we were
one
too
of the
scared.
first times we did an ASAP science trip to New York, we left a sandwich shop and we like noted it. We're like, we need to change the way we act here. Then literally they like gave our sandwich to someone else and they eventually made it and they put it off to the side. And then they were pissed at us for standing for half an hour. We were like, we just wanted to know. They're like,
ready?
Obviously someone else took it because you waited so long. But then this is here. There's another order. Take this one. I'm like, you're mad at us. You didn't give me the thing. Like, and then we left and we were like, holy shit, we need to really change but it's true. We were annoyed. We were mad. We didn't like the restaurant. But all the other New Yorkers who went in and grabbed their shit and left and were in their face had a really great time at that restaurant. So like, there is a passive aggressive thing that we also have as Canadians. Like you're totally right. Like we should never be high on our horse. Our country's be fucked. Wow. Oh my God. That confrontation question is so good. Can you say it again? Because I want to ask it to people.
Okay.
So it's only for people who are afraid of confrontation.
Yes.
It's the question that delineates to the perfectionism to the.
Well, not necessarily only. If you're not afraid of confrontation, are you a person who just always thinks that you're right? Or are you a person who feels like you're normally on the right side of things? Let's say that. You're normally on the right side of things. Or are you a person who... Some people just like to fight, man. Some people like to argue.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm always right, but I know I'm always on the right side of like morally on the right side of things. If I bring something up and I confront it, it's not just to be a bee or to have something to say. It's because I, in my moral compass, feel like this needs to be dealt with. Mm-hmm. So like,
and I like people who like. I'm really drawn to people who can handle confrontation. Like I sit there and I'm like, oh, that's so hot and cool. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, I think it's not. I'm aware that it's not a bad thing. Like I don't like it for me because of like what I said, but I like to like
admirable
see it. And
when
it's
someone can
admirable, and I
stand
have
up
friends
for
who
it.
are like good at it, and I'm like, I really appreciate like.
it makes me a good manager
like,
for y'all. And honestly, not just y'all. Like I have 22 like full-time like retainer clients, right? Everybody is pretty much like brilliant, but like won't stand up for themselves. So like I'm like everyone's like advocate. I'm like, oh, word, you want more money from this corporation? No problem. We're not doing that for less than this. Or like, oh, like you're scared to stand up to this former employer of yours who's like bothering you because you're an influencer now? No. I will send them an email like, oh, this company wants to get in the ring. Before we call the lawyers, call me. Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
I think for me, there's a
Yeah,
thing
no, that's
about
all
like,
true.
I think and then like, this is a childhood thing too, right? Like, because I felt like no one advocated for me. I advocate for people who like sometimes don't have a voice in certain situations or are too nervous to deal with it. It could be me. I mean, maybe I'm being a crutch. Maybe you guys need to just start confronting stuff on your own. But, but I just like, in our, not disclosing, but like on our situation, when I was like, no, you treat them like this, not just on paper, not just in pay. You treat them this way. It's the right thing. For me, it's like, I am a big, like, just advocate for what is right and being treated firm but fairly, because I treat everyone around me and the people who work for me like firm and fairly. And I think that like that's why I'm not gonna say I'm confrontational, why I'm not afraid of confrontation.
Yeah.
Totally.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think you ever, at least in front of us, have ever been
No.
confrontational out of line. Ever.
No.
Okay, before we, because we're kind of hitting near the end, but I want to go back to and see if we can get more out of, like, your transformation from going from a person who felt like they were afraid of failure to not. Because I can think of, like, lots of people that I know, and I'm sure many, many people listening who are in that spot. I still feel like that myself. I'm like, I know I want to get there, and I know, there's never any perfect, so it's not a matter of, like, turning it completely around, but can you think around, like, are there other things you can think about that transition and what actually propelled you to go from being afraid of failure to just being like, you know what, I can find the truth in myself or whatever?
Yeah, I think three things, right? Healing through a lot of my trauma, 2, failing over and over and then learning from those failures. But I think the big one, as I'm sitting here like really processing and thinking about it, is that I just don't give myself a plan B. Plan A has to work. So at this point, like, because I failed a lot, I kind of know that plan A will work at this point. But I've never had a crutch or a safety net. I never had.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
I sometimes feel like, because obviously ASAP Science has been like very successful over the last many years, but before it was, we were like taking the risk, going out there, whatever. But once we have the safety net, you sometimes tell yourself, if I have a safety net, I can do anything. But sometimes the safety net is what makes you go, well,
Wow,
why am I going to
yeah.
risk the safety net? Why would I step off the cliff when I have the safety net? And I do think about that sometimes, where a lot of people cushion themselves because it feels like once I cushion enough, I can jump off anything.
But the cushion then
But it
becomes
doesn't-
something.
That's so interesting.
Then the cushion though becomes something that you could lose. You have to be ready to be risky when you don't have anything to lose. It's like, okay, I don't have anything to lose. There is no plan B. Like, even for me, like, moving away, like, people are always like, oh my God, you've lived everywhere. Like, I've lived in DC, in Cali, in every city in Texas, in Nashville, in Mexico, in Toronto, in Atlanta. Like, I've lived in so many places. Like, how do you I'm like, I don't have a fallback game. I don't have like a family home to go back to. Like, if anything fell through, y'all can go back to Guelph. You know what I mean? Like, well, you can go back to Guelph. I don't know where your parents live, but it's like, or where you're from. It's like, you can go back where you're from. I can't do that. Like, I take care of my mama.
Wow.
So like, there is no fallback plan. All of my other older, elder relatives have died. There is no fallback plan. I am most people's fallback plan. So it's like, I don't have the opportunity to have a plan B. I have to take the risk and take the leap, whether I have the cushion or not. Now I'm in a place, your girl Big Ball Shot calling, but I still take the risks because I've safeguarded that money. I've safeguarded that positioning, and like creating this new division. I'm about to jump out and probably throw $250,000 at jumping out and doing something. If I lose it, I lose it. But I doubt I'm going to lose it because I have failed so many times in this area. I know what success looks like. And I understand the plan to get there. So I think those are the 3 things.
Wow.
You have to heal. You have to fail over and over so you learn. You can't just fail. You have to fail and then use it to learn.
Reflect.
But then you also
Can you
have to
think of it like advice for somebody who's though afraid of failure, if you have to fail and fail? Because I can think of myself and others who would be like in a position where how do you get past that step?
And you haven't failed a lot in your life.
Yeah, and it
You know
is.
what I mean? You haven't-
I don't think that's necessarily true. But
Sorry, from my perspective, I'm like, you're pretty
yeah, but I
successful.
still think that's just like an outside view. Like I definitely feel like I have failed in my own view, but there definitely are times where like that fear does stop me. And like obviously I understand and intellectually appreciate the value of failing, but how do you get past that hurdle to be like, I will not make myself fail, but run towards failure if I have to?
So I would say, like, ask yourself a question. Ask yourself, like, if I died tomorrow and never took the risk, would I be satisfied? And for me, it's always a burning no. No. Like, for instance, let's say, like, you guys decided you wanted to have a child or something, right? And then you're kind of scared. You're like, I don't know, like, are we going to be good parents? Like, we're kind of weird. Like, Greg farts a lot, and he has gout, and he's into Ernie's boner, and Mitch is like perfect Patty. You know what I mean? Mitch is like perfect Patty, and then there's like Greg. Greg's like Linus. Greg's like Linus from Charlie Brown, like just without the blanket. Instead of the blanket, it's a hat. You know, and it's like, are we gonna be good parents? Ask yourself, if I died tomorrow and never was a father, would I feel fulfilled?
Yeah, that's a really good way to ask yourself something. That's true.
Yeah.
There's a similar skill with even just appreciating the things in your life, being like, if that person died tomorrow, if I didn't have that tomorrow,
Gratitude.
how
It's like
would
a
I
gratitude
feel?
thing, yeah.
And it's because it's easy to get sucked up in the moment and just be like, this is shitty or whatever. But
Okay, I know we really have to go, but I have one more question about the healing. Is that therapy? Is that...
I think it's
like-
multiple things, right? So, like, for me, obviously, like, faith is so important to me. So, like, my prayer time and meditation time was really vital. Coupled with therapy, coupled with my self-unpacking. Like, right now, so, like, I'm in Houston right now. I'm based in Atlanta. I was supposed to be home already. So this would have been with my beautiful, lovely background, but it's not. Because over this weekend, like, something from my, like, spiritual, mental, emotional attic got unpacked. It got, like, the box got opened up. And I was like, oh, I haven't dealt with this. Like, it's like having a closet of dead snakes. Like, I need to sweep up the debris and throw it out and put the trash on the curb. And instead of doing that, every time I defeat something or overcome something, I just kill the snake and throw it in the closet. So you open the closet and there's like a flood of dead snakes. Like, that's bad. That's really bad, you know? And
unless you're trying to make a purse.
honestly,
Okay,
whoa, hey, no, we're not making purses out of snakes.
I made an evil type of noise as an
Oh
evil
my gosh,
person, like
we're
a
sustainable.
Versace.
We're sustainable queens. We're not making snakes.
except when it comes to snakes.
Okay, there. That was my bad joke.
Okay.
Okay, finally.
But actually, like, this isn't an episode about dreams, but I had a dream about this closet of dead snakes about 2 months ago. Literally opening the double doors in a room that I had not been in a long time, that was just like clean and it was like a little guest room. And I went in the closet, opened the two doors, and like dead snakes just started pouring out. And I'm deathly afraid of snakes in real life. Like, I mean, cartoons, the emoji, don't send me a snake, you know? Like, I literally, fear just like comes like over me. So in the dream, I had to like open the closet and all these dead snakes like pour out into the room. That was 2 months ago. Well, this past weekend, someone brings up something that triggers the reminder of the dead snakes. And I call my therapist and I'm like hysterically crying. And I'm like, what is going on? And she said, you've been housing the spoils of war and you need to get rid of them. She said, so go, into the closet, sweep up the snakes, throw them away and put them on the curb. And so the reason I'm still here is because I want to heal in this area. I want to have time and space, not in my home, to deal with those things. So it's not just prayer and meditation. It's not just therapy. It's you deciding you're ready to unpack your trauma. Am I ready to unpack the fact that as a child I was rejected because I was gay? Am I ready to unpack the fact that I was competing with a sibling who may have been superior to me? Am I ready to deal with the fact and unpack that thing? So whatever it is, am I ready to unpack, childhood sexual abuse and trauma? Am I ready to unpack every part of my life that I have experienced trauma from 8 years old to now? I've had to consciously say, okay, I'm going to sit still in this and start unpacking. And what unpacking looks like is like, how did it feel when these people did this? What was my response? Am I proud of that response? Why or why not? What could I have done better here? Can I forgive and release and let go of that time? And that's like what healing looks like to me. That's what healing looks like to me. Like whether you are spiritual and you pray and meditate, or whether you just go to therapy or you do both, or whatever your practice is, you have to do that third part, no matter who you are and where you are. You have to sit still in it and say, can I deal with what was happening at that time?
Wow.
I guess I got to do that.
Screaming.
Like actually, because I definitely think about lots of things, but you're right. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about where it comes from. I do, I guess, actively in therapy, but I don't spend a lot of like silent time, even though I love silent time. No, that's really good advice.
I love that.
I imagine that will be extremely helpful for so many people who are listening, including us. Thank you so much, Kendra, for coming on the pod. Where can people find
Drop
you?
the socials.
You already know it's your girl. No, I'm just playing. You can follow me on Instagram at I am Kendra Y Hill. And if you need a manager too, you can go to kendrascalemybusiness.com.
And honestly, Kendra is the fucking best. I'm
Like,
just saying this to the people on the podcast.
Honestly,
Like, I don't know
you've
why
been
people
the most
need to
amazing
hear
person
it.
we've ever worked with. And I know
100%.
everyone who knows you feels the same. You're an incredible human being, and we appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
And I'm glad our audience got to hear some words of wisdom from you, and I'm sure there'll be many more.
Yeah,
to come
let
on
us
the
know
pod.
what other topics you want Kendra to come
Yeah,
on and
come and
absolutely
therapize
roast
us.
us to our core about.
Screaming. Thank you,
In the
guys.
best way possible.
All right, thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Purse.